Welcome to the deep dive. Today's exploration is a bit different. It's really personal, very specific, and I think incredibly relevant right now.
Definitely.
Usually, we're sorting through a whole pile of articles, different sources, but for this one, the whole roadmap, the wisdom we need, it's kind of distilled into just one single, really profound book title. It's almost like a thesis for living.
It really is.
The source we're diving into today is this Chinese title, Ne Neha Hui Haku. So we're not just looking at words on a page, we're sort of following a philosophical guide here.
A blueprint, almost.
Exactly. And for you listening, the core ideas break down into three concepts that really you can't separate them. First, restoring your true appearance, or your original self. Second, how to accept oneself. And finally, the result, appreciating life. Our goal today is to unpack how these three things link together, like a sequence, a path. Because honestly, in a world that's all about performance, comparing ourselves, putting on masks, finding this original self, it feels less like a luxury and more like a necessary shortcut to finding some real peace. The title itself is the map.
And what's so striking, as you said, is that structure. It's not just saying be authentic. It's giving you steps. It implies do this first, restoration, use this tool, acceptance, while you're doing it, and then you'll naturally arrive at this outcome, appreciation.
Right.
It connects that deep inner work, which can feel quite abstract, directly to how you actually experience your life on the outside. That connection, that dynamic, gives us a really solid way to think about this stuff beyond just, feel-good slogans.
Okay, let's jump into that first step then. Restoring the true appearance, the original self. The word restoring is key here, isn't it?
Yep.
It implies this true self isn't something you need to build from scratch or go out and find. It suggests it's already there. It exists. It's just buried, covered up. So we're talking about revealing something, not creating it.
Exactly. Uncovering.
So the big question then is, what's covering it up? What are these layers? The source suggests it's things like societal expectations.
Yes, societal expectations, the roles we learn to play, the good employee, the perfect parent, whatever it is.
The persona we put out online, maybe?
Oh, definitely that. And also that deep fear of being judged, it makes us hold back. Plus, the constant comparison culture, whispering that we're not enough as we are, all that stuff obscures the original picture.
I like the analogy of it being like a masterpiece hidden under layers of dust or old varnish.
That's a great way to put it. And that original essence, that true self, I tend to think of it as being pretty resilient. It doesn't actually go away.
So it's still there, just dormant.
Yeah, dormant, or maybe just hard to see. If you think of yourself like a building, the restoration isn't about knocking the whole thing down. It's more like removing the ugly scaffolding someone else put up, or maybe tearing off those weird extensions you added just because you thought the neighbors would approve.
Right. Trying to fit in.
Exactly. And the core of this process, really, is about unlearning. Think about it. We spend years, decades maybe, absorbing messages that our worth comes from what we achieve or how much we earn or who we're partnered with. Restoring the true self means starting to pull apart that identity, the one based on achievement, from the identity based on your fundamental essence, who you are beneath all that.
So it involves questioning all those shoulds and musts we live by.
Absolutely. Questioning where they came from and whether they actually serve you, your true self.
Okay, but that sounds, really challenging. Especially now, if I spend most of my week being, say, my professional self, performing a role, how do I even figure out where that performance stops and my essence starts? Is real restoration even possible when we're constantly connected and expected to perform?
That's the critical question, isn't it? And the source gives us a clue. You often know which identity is the performance because, it's exhausting.
Right, the effort involved.
Yes. Maintaining that false front, that persona, it takes a lot of energy. It's high maintenance. Whereas being your true self, your essence, that should feel relatively effortless, it's just being.
So the restoration process might actually start when the internal cost of keeping up the act just gets too high, higher than the fear of letting it go.
Often, yes. That exhaustion, that feeling of being drained by your own life, can be the signal that something needs to change, that the mask needs to come off.
So maybe for you listening, a good question is, what's the heaviest mask you wear? The identity that takes the most effort to keep up. That might be the place to start looking.
That's a great starting point.
Okay, fascinating. So the true self is resilient. It doesn't vanish. It just gets buried and becomes, frankly, expensive to ignore. So how do we actually start the the messy work of digging it out. This brings us right to that second phrase, how to accept oneself.
The action part.
Exactly, because you can't restore that masterpiece if you're refusing to even look at the dust or the cracks or the chipped paint, right? Restoration seems to demand this kind of radical honesty about where things stand right now.
Yes.
And that means facing the parts of ourselves we usually hide, the flaws, the past mistakes, the things we see as weaknesses, the stuff we criticize ourselves for all the time.
And this is where I think a lot of people get tripped up. We absolutely have to make a distinction here between just passively resigning yourself to something and actively accepting it. They sound similar, but they are worlds apart.
Okay, explain that difference. What does passive resignation look like?
Well, passive resignation is like saying, okay, I'm terrible with money. I've tried. It doesn't work. I give up. This is just who I am. I'll just live with being broke. There's a kind of giving up there, often with some underlying self-blame or even self-hatred still mixed in. It's static.
Right, like throwing your hands up. So what does active acceptance look like then? Let's take a practical example. Say someone struggles with conflict avoidance in relationships. They often feel walked over because they just can't bring themselves to set boundaries. How would active acceptance look there?
Active acceptance would sound more like, okay, right now in this moment, I recognize and acknowledge that setting boundaries is really hard for me. I see that I tend to prioritize keeping the peace over expressing my own needs, sometimes even my safety. You see the difference?
Yeah, it's less about judgment and more about just observing the reality.
Exactly. It's radical honesty about the present situation without the heavy layer of emotional judgment, the shame, the self-punishment. You're just stating the facts of your current internal experience. And that acknowledgement, that's the starting line, not the end point.
Okay, so it's not saying I'm okay with being walked over.
Not at all. It's saying, I accept that right now, this is my pattern. And if we link this back to the restoration idea, acceptance is the tool that keeps you stable during that process.
How so?
Well, if you're trying to restore something but you hate it, you're likely to be clumsy, maybe even destructive. Acceptance provides that calm, steady hand. You accept the weakness, the flaw, not as a permanent definition of who you are, but as the current reality you're starting from.
And that acceptance then, it frees up energy.
Precisely. All the energy you were wasting on beating yourself up or denying the problem or hiding it, that energy is now available. It allows you to move towards constructive action. So in your example, accepting the difficulty with boundaries allows you to then actually start learning and practicing how to set healthy ones.
So setting a boundary isn't rejecting yourself for being weak. It's actually an act of self-acceptance, accepting you need that boundary.
Exactly. It's accepting your needs and acting on them. Acceptance is the absolute prerequisite for making safe, sustainable change. It stops that harsh inner critic from just derailing the whole restoration project before it even gets going.
Wow, okay. That really reframes acceptance. It's not passive, it's preparatory, it's foundational.
The foundational is a perfect word for it.
All right, so we've started uncovering our true self, getting past the layers. We've stabilized that delicate process using active, radical acceptance. Now, what about the payoff? The third part, appreciating life. How does all this inner work, accepting my internal messiness, actually translate into, well, appreciating the outside world more?
This connection is really the heart of the whole philosophy, I think. Think about it. When most of your internal energy is tied up in maintaining that mask, policing your flaws, worrying about judgment, or just fighting against who you are, how much capacity do you actually have left for anything else?
Not much, I guess. Your focus is totally inward, on managing yourself.
Exactly. Your own mental clutter, your insecurities, your self-criticism, it all acts like a really thick, dark filter over your perception of reality.
So you could be, like, at a beautiful concert, but you're not really hearing it because you're busy worrying about work tomorrow or thinking you look bad in your clothes.
Precisely. You're physically there, but mentally, you're caught in that internal loop of anxiety or judgment. You're looking at the world, but you're seeing it through the lens of your own internal struggle.
Okay, so this is where it gets really practical. When we do the restoration work, when we anchor ourselves in that authentic self that we've learned to accept, what changes on the outside? How does life look different?
Where primarily your energy is liberated, all those thousands of tiny calculations you were doing every day to keep the performance going. Should I say this? What will they think?
Yeah.
Am I doing okay? Suddenly that demand drops away.
And that freed up energy, where does it go?
It becomes available for engagement. Instead of constantly filtering the world through fear and self-consciousness, you start to actually receive the world. maybe with more openness, more curiosity.
So appreciating life isn't about pretending everything is suddenly perfect or being happy all the time.
Not at all. It's
Yeah.
much deeper than that. It means being able to fully experience life,
Mm.
the good stuff, yeah, but also the difficult stuff, the complicated moments, even the mundane things, because you're actually present for them. You're not so burdened by the internal noise of hiding or judging
You're
yourself.
showing up as you are.
You're showing up as your restored, accepted self, ready to engage with whatever life puts in front of you without that heavy filter. The clarity you gain when you reduce that internal mental clutter translates directly into a much richer, more textured experience of life itself.
It really does sound like a complete blueprint then. It's not just fixing one isolated problem like low self-esteem, it's shifting the entire foundation of how you relate to yourself and, consequently, how you relate to the world.
That's it, exactly.
And the fulfillment comes not from getting something new from the outside, but from revealing and recognizing what was true about you all along.
Recognition is key.
Okay, let's just quickly recap this powerful three-step path that this single title gives us. Step 1, seek the true self. Remembering that your core essence is still there, it's just been obscured.
Right. Uncover it.
Step 2, use active, radical self-acceptance as the crucial tool to stabilize yourself during that uncovering process. Accept the current reality without judgment so you have the foundation to make real changes, like setting boundaries.
Acceptance is the prerequisite for action, not the end point.
And then step 3, you naturally start to reap the reward, which is fully appreciating life. Why? Because your energy is finally free to actually engage with the world instead of being locked in that internal battle against yourself.
This source is such a good reminder that growth isn't always about striving to become someone totally different. Sometimes, maybe often, it's about the courage to reveal and embrace who you've been all along.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And as we leave you to think about this, maybe consider that final outcome, that shift in perspective.
Yeah, if restoring your true self, using acceptance, is like cleaning the lens you look through, maybe ask yourself this. What colors, what details in your own life that were previously dulled or maybe even invisible because of insecurity or self-criticism, what might you now be ready to see and truly appreciate? That's the exploration we hope you take with you today.